Boston Praise Radio and TV Network. Kingdom greetings and God's richest blessings be multiplied to you and yours. You're tuned to another segment of Healing Our Lands broadcast here on the Boston Praise Radio and TV Network. I'm your host, Pastor Hobbs, live here in the studio with my brand new friend and brother, our intern from Madison Park Development Corporation, our dear friend, Jenny Matos. She hooked us up with another outstanding intern, and so we've just been connecting earlier off the air, and I'm just so excited about the opportunity to be able to introduce you to our brother Marvin's.
Hello.
So you said your last name. What's your name?
Marvin's Bell Branch.
And how young are you?
I'm 20 years old.
And where tell me a little bit about you. Whatever you want to tell us about. You tell us, you introduce yourself to our listening and viewing audience.
My name is Marvin's Bell Branch. From Haiti. I was born there. I came here when I was about 8 years old, and I've been in Boston ever since. Beautiful.
So, I know this is if I say this right, como ye?
Como ye, yeah.
And so, what does that mean?
It means how are you?
And what would the appropriate? So, if I said to you, because that's about as much as I know, right? And I know somebody might say, what did it say? Bien? What would the response to that?
Somebody might say to you like, muy bien, yo, man.
Which means?
I'm good, and you?
Okay.
It's just, just the generic response. Everybody says I'm good when you ask how they doing.
Right. Whether they're not good or not. That's just, that's what they're going to say. Actually, we were not actually recorded. So people who were actually listening to this, you could not see us, but I'm getting ready to put us on the screen so you actually can see us. This is Marvin's first radio, TV interview. Yes?
Yeah.
So welcome, man. Again, we're so pleased that you are with us. And when I'm now you, in a minute you're going to see that screen is actually delayed. So right now that's the screensaver, but momentarily you will see yourself. However, when we're having the broadcast, you're going to just engage me, and we'll be able to see it after the fact. But you can take a glance until when it comes, you're going to see it shift, and then you're going to learn how to be able to engineer. You're going to learn how to be able to host. You're going to help us to build our capacity as your generation already. You've helped me just to be able to try to order some food from Uber Eats that I've never done before. So your generation is just fluent with this technology. My 60-year young brain is really trying to wrap itself around. There you go. Now, when you look that way, you're going to see, so it's delayed. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you can just engage me. But I'm so grateful because the Bible says it this way. And, I'm a pastor, so I'm always going to give you scripture. I hope that's not a problem for you. But the Bible says he called the old because they're wise, right? They've been through some things, there's some experiences, right? And the young because they're strong. Old men would have dreams, young men would have visions. So what Healing Our Land's vision is to create a youth and young adult led, because what's current, what's relative, AI, all these kind of things I'm trying to catch up, and y'all it's moving so fast, right? So it behooves us to be able to receive the insight and the bright young minds and the energy, the vision that comes from our young people, right? As well as the young people to be able to also receive some of the wisdom that comes from people who understand they've been through some things, right? It's not, and we can learn from each other is my point. It's an intergenerational move. It's not one or the other, right? Older folks cannot be sustained, and we won't be able to keep up, right? And have a movement that's going to be sustained unless we're constantly being able to pour into young folks and build relationships and support them. But likewise, younger people also complement us and help us to be relevant and current. So does that make sense to you?
Yeah. You're right. Earlier when I had mentioned the term a sponge, I think young people should be more that way, to just take in a lot of the wisdom that the older people have to offer to you.
And it's interesting. You have that perspective because how did you get that perspective? Because some people, younger people, feel like they don't want to hear from you. Like y'all don't know what you're talking about. Like how did you come to that place? Is that where did that come from?
So I got it mostly from my mother. My mother believes that everybody has something to teach you, and you must always listen to everybody. Don't ever think anybody's beneath you. And you know, after you listen, you could dissect what you heard if you want to keep it or not. But at least just listen. It's free, so just listen.
That's wisdom, brother. That's wisdom. So you said you were 8 years young when you moved here from Haiti.
Yeah.
Do you remember that when you were younger?
So I don't really remember a lot about Haiti, but I remember just, you know, how every time I try to remember Haiti, I just remember being free. You know, it wasn't like in the city where your family is unit 2 in a house, you know, and you live in a house where you live on a unit 1, unit 2, and that's where your family is kind of stuck, and your family's at, and on the apartment on top of you is another family, and the apartment on top of you is another family. So in Haiti, it was just you lived on your land, and everybody in the whole neighborhood was family.
Wow.
Everybody was family. Everybody was related. All the kids were cousins. All the grown-ups were your uncles. And it was beautiful.
Wow. It sounds to me, what I hear you saying is, like you said, one family, community, right? Everybody sharing, right? Looking out for each other. With that said, and I appreciate that. I had the opportunity to be able to go to Jamaica, and I stayed with a Rastafarian family, and it was very interesting to see how, as a person coming from America, right, and they were teaching us that we gave some resources. My sponsor actually gave resources to the people who hosted us, and they took us to the market. Like they didn't believe in going to the store. They would like go to the place and get fresh fish, and they made everything from scratch. Right. And what they made, they actually shared with people who were neighbors. They didn't just keep it for themselves. So was that kind of similar how it is there?
Yeah, Haitians usually still do that in America. Like, my grandmother would make food and then leave food for her son that's married, and obviously his wife is not happy about that, but he loves the food and he will sneak away to come and eat it. So it's that mentality. You make food and you feed your family, and you feed everyone around you. As long as the more plates you're making, the better,
That's how it is.
Yeah, that's the mentality. It's just when you come here, you got to go to the market, because that's where the food is at. That's where everything is. But if they had the chance and the opportunity, they would want it fresh. They would
Sure. I mean, to me, it was a beautiful thing. I mean, first of all, people from the Caribbean, right, and from whether it's Haiti, whether it's Africa, actually, and we know that it all starts there. We'll go there in a moment. But so Haiti, where else? Jamaica. I don't know. I can just go by where I know, but like, fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, they just grow like mango trees, fresh off the mangoes, and right, it's just wonderful, right? And again, this everything they understood, like because you can just throw the seeds, right, and it's gonna grow.
Yeah.
So it's just like organic, right? And it was it was beautiful. I mean, the not only that, but things that actually heal the body, actually nourish the body, right? As opposed to a lot of Western food that is GMO, pesticides, and artificial, all kind of stuff that makes it look great. Maybe it actually doesn't, but I mean, but you understand what I'm saying? Talk about that.
Back to the mango thing. I remember every story I have from Haiti is like when I was 6 or 5 years old, 7 years old, and I still remember them, which is weird. But I think it's just like it's my brain remembering the best time.
Yes.
So there was this lady. She there was this mango tree. We played soccer underneath there all the time, and she would tell us stories of how when she was around 5 or 6 years old, she planted that mango tree.
Wow.
So when I came to America, I actually don't like mangoes.
You don't?
I ate mangoes so much growing up.
You mango it out.
There's no more eats left in it. I ate too much mangoes, you know. So you see people here talking about let me go buy some mangoes, and I'm like,
I'm good.
I'm good. And whatever mango you're eating, this is not even the best one. Most mangoes you guys get is like from DR, you know.
Yeah.
And they put Haiti next to it, but no, it's from DR. and real Haitians know the difference.
They know the difference.
Yeah.
Is that the flat one?
This Haiti has like so many types of mangoes.
Okay.
So many. There's the red ones. There's the flat ones, and there's orange, green ones, and everything. It's just so much mangoes. When it's mango season, I mean, it's bad. You see kids walking just drunk from mangoes. You know.
That's amazing, man. So yeah, the freedom and the community. With that said, that's the beautiful part of it, and we know the story that Haiti was the first country that fought for its independence.
Yeah.
And so what is your perspective? And educate our listening and viewing audience who may or may not know that story from your perspective.
The story, I feel like, I don't know if anyone else in my generation feels the same way about it, but I don't want to hear the story because I feel like the fight is not over. You know, in order to start singing about victories, then the battle needs to end. I think the battle has never ended for us. We continue to fight to this day. It's just we're not given the platforms that we need so we can make the fight known. You know, so when you look at it, a lot of people talk about it and say Haiti was the first country to fight for its independence. I don't think that's true. I think black people has always fought for their independence. It's just Haiti was one of the first countries, or the first country to get their independence from their captors. Yeah,
that's a beautiful perspective, and it's interesting. We're talking offline, and you're a wealth of information and knowledge, right? You were talking about even Haiti, right? Like what is your understanding? Share with me what we talked about in terms of Haiti and its connection to Africa, and or your understanding of even Africa, the motherland, and its correlation to, I'll say Haiti and other people of color and or even Europeans.
So the conversation started because we were speaking about Haiti and how it is the first free country, and how I told you, I don't think that's how we should speak on Haiti. I think anytime we were to speak about it, we shouldn't start talking about it through slavery and how they fought their captors and gained their independence. I think the idea of Haiti and the idea of a country that's unified for freedom for all people, that idea started all the way back in Africa in the motherlands, where people, they took our people and they brought us to Haiti. They brought us to the land, and we fought to make it our own. But if you take that idea, that cohesion that we had to stand up to fight, all that could be traced all the way back to Africa, to the motherland, where if a Haitian person goes to Africa right now, you'll see somebody that look just like you, and we all look the same. We all have similar stories, similar things to say. A lot of the herbs, a lot of the natural things you're talking about, a lot of that came from Africa with us. And you'll see everywhere that the slave ships stopped, they brought a piece of Africa with them, because Africa is not just a land thing. It's spiritual. It's mental.
I love that. I love that your perspective is always broader than, even as we were talking about, shifting gears a little bit, about our incarceral settings, right? That are disproportionately black and brown and poor people, right? And so we were talking about how there's a big focus, and some of the work that you're helping us to be able to do is being able to, as you were helping us prepare the prompts and so forth, as we're going to be going behind the wall on Friday. You know, I told you I was behind the wall on last night. And right, so this is something we're doing to be able to help people to exercise their right to vote who are behind the walls. We have this sign here to be able to educate people that they can vote who are from behind the walls, right? So, and did you know that, this information?
No, I didn't know about that. I thought you got arrested and that's it. That's your representation is gone with that.
And many people think that, right? And so many people sit out and say, well, I can't vote, I got a record, right? And that's not the case. So we've got to be educated and then share that knowledge. I didn't know that. When I found out that people could vote at serving as a volunteer chaplain behind the wall, right? But actually, let me think about that. Let me get this right, because the story, again, my 60-year-old brain, I got to like think about it and pause. I want to tell the story accurately. So actually, Healing Our Land, this is what I didn't share with you, but we'll just flow, right? Healing Our Land was birthed in 1998, and it was birthed out of a response to the issue of actually AIDS.
Yeah.
Right? You knew that?
You told me a little bit about that on the Zoom call.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. So what do you recall that I told you?
You said it started over the stigma that they had towards people who had AIDS, and you guys started to be the group that that's wanted to help them, that's still seeing them as people, and I wanted to be there for them, and eventually you guys went towards the incarceration system.
Very good. You were paying attention.
Yeah. It's, you know, I'm a bit passionate about it. That's why.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. And where did that passion come from?
I think the passion comes from just the idea of community, you know. I think a lot of us, a lot of young people don't have that idea of community. We have that idea of get rich and become rich and you know, single-mindedness, you know. But you know, a lot of people who get rich with the idea of just themselves, they often find themselves being poor again, because you don't have anybody to share that wealth with. Even if the wealth is, you know, monetary, or your wealth may be education wise, you need to be able to share that wealth with your community, with people around you, and to, you know, to be a better person to your community, to share what you have with your community and all that. And I'm really compassionate about that. I'm really compassionate about being a good person, presenting yourself well, and representing your community.
I mean, I think it's outstanding, and it's evident. And again, I'm wondering, where do you think that came from? Is that just innately who you are? You think that because you're from Haiti and you talked about the community and maybe in your childhood? Where would you say do you think that?
I think mine probably came from the way I was raised. You know, I truly believe that the world raised me, you know, because I didn't have a father at home. My father figure was the dean. My father figure was the mandate that was in my life to discipline me. Dean, teachers and such, and random people. I was that one kid that would sit down and talk to a random person in the street about anything.
Wow.
And my mom used to always laugh about that, but I used to tell her, like, you know, what if you pass away? Who's gonna raise me? The world is gonna raise me. So if you're here or if you're not around, you're not giving me attention, I must seek attention from the world. And I didn't do it in a negative way. I did it in a way of like, everybody has something to teach me.
Wow.
So now I'm 20 years old. I get to talk to anybody at any age about anything, because I've spoken to people about anything at any age.
It's amazing. So you said your father was never in your life. Have you ever met him? Do you know who he is?
So my mother and my father, they were a one-time thing.
Okay.
And because of that, they just, you know, one-time thing. Yeah, they just ended right then and there.
Wow.
So I never met him or anything, but I don't hold anything against him, you know, because they were probably young.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. And I mean, thanks God for your perspective being so optimistic, because for some people, you know, that they use that maybe as an excuse And maybe, not having guidance, God's given you other mentors and deans and so forth, people whom you were actually able to listen to, right? I'm assuming. Yes, no?
Using that as an excuse, at first I used to, but then I thought about it. It's an excuse, but who really wins from it? If you know, my mindset behind especially fatherhood is that no man has ever taught me how to be a man. So how could I teach my son how to be a man? So that's why I always try to seek, that mentorship from other male role models in my life, because I want to be somebody that my son can look up to. I never had a father figure to look up to, but sometimes I'm happy I never met my father, because a lot of people who met their father, they have nothing but negative things to say towards them. And for me, I get to be on the optimistic side, because I can imagine a reality that never existed where he was just a great man.
Wow. I mean, man, I tell you, it's so inspiring hearing you talk, because, again, it's just an optimistic perspective as you see the glass, as they say, half full as opposed to half empty. And that's all about perspective, right? And so that's a beautiful thing, man, and it's a healthy thing, and one that you can be able to helpfully share with other people, even our listening and viewing audience, because there's some people who, again, will use it as an excuse, but maybe hearing it from you as a young man who's saying, what does it benefit you?
Yeah.
Help them to change their perspective. And obviously it's giving you peace. It's giving you, God's giving you other folks, mentors and people to help bring you this far.
Yeah. It's all from others, my mindset and everything. It's all from others. Only others could help me think the way that I think. I feel like even people in my own family don't think the way that I think. And when I look at them and I see how negatively they think, and I ask, what does it give them? What does it do for them? They're not better off, And then you look at other people who, it's not even that they're rich. It's just they're happy.
Yeah.
They're content with life.
Yes.
I don't want to be rich. I just want to be content.
Yes. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, brother. But, full circle, as we were talking about, even many people who are incarcerated, right, will tell you, I'm hearing so often, if you're incarcerated, you're not in a situation where you're able to be in your children's lives, right? And I know some children who've suffered from that. Some have been able to be like you and be optimistic. Others will use it again, and they end up being in prison with their father or with the 2 and 3 generations sometimes of incarceration. So it doesn't benefit one to be able to do that. And when I'm going behind the walls and hearing our brothers and our sisters talk about the conditions, right, and the conditioning that they have behind the wall, it doesn't. Even if I've heard people say, oh, no one's going to disrespect my child, or no one's going to, or disrespect me. And they, and that again, feel like that's a reason to do something that could land them in incarceration. And what does it benefit? You might feel I'm big and bad, or I'm not. Even our first lady was talking about this, that some people will encourage that. Yeah, I'll go to jail for mine. But what does that benefit the child when you're not accessible?
Yeah. This got me to think about something where it's like a lot of people would die for you, but you have to ask yourself who would live for you. So as a parent, a lot of parents said, I'll die for my child, but are you willing to live for your child? Are you willing to live for your child? Are you willing to learn and to heal yourself based on past traumas, so you don't pass those things down to your own children? That's the beautiful thing that I think, especially in our community, we tend to have mixed up, where people think, if you love somebody, you're willing to die for them. But if you really love somebody, I think you're willing to help yourself and change yourself to be the best you that you could be, to be in their life.
Powerful, profound, bro. Listen, you are tuned into Healing Our Lands broadcast here on the Boston Praise Radio ONT. This is our first broadcast that is live on Boston Praise Radio ONT Network, our main platform. I'm going to check that out momentarily and see who may be chiming in and participating in this conversation. But perhaps you want to call in and engage in the conversation. You can call 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685. Again, 617-282. What is it?
Oh man.
I was seeing you pay attention. 0685. You good. You good. You good. You were focused, but there you go. You see, this brother's on it. So, and there's some other numbers. If 617-282-0685, there's another number.
It says
Not that one. Forget that whole thing right there. These ones here. Can you see that right underneath the camera?
yes.
Those three numbers. What are the other ones that they got?
617-282-7794
Yes.
and 617-265-2679.
Thank you. So those are the ones. Those are the numbers you can call in live. Also, I believe broadcasting. Let me see. Pastor Bruce Wall's Facebook page, and I'm gonna actually check that out. That's our founder and CEO. Thank you, Pastor Bruce Wall. Yes, we are on his page. Hey, Louise Carcione. She is tuned in, and Louise is a member. She is our senior member here at the church. She is, I want to say, 91 years young.
Wow.
Yes, and she, interesting enough, is was the president of Citizens United for the Rehabilitation of Aaron El-Cure, which is an international organization that addresses human rights and prison reform. So as a result of being on the board of directors with her, I actually went to, they do a conference every other year in a different country. And we actually visit a prison in the respective countries. We learn from people all across the world, good things and bad things, right? Like some you read like prisons in Rwanda. I went to Rwanda in prison.
Oh man.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
I mean, man, it was the most devastating thing to see all these black men. I mean, they were just like the despair. And but I have to honestly say, when we were there, it was like the hope. It was just like a sponge. Like when you come into these places, they kind of always put on what they call a dog and pony show, right? So they show you their best, but you can see the people just like, help me.
It's because you're American, you know.
Yes.
You know, Americans don't understand the importance like they have when they go to countries. You go to a country, you get there, they hear America and like their eyes brighten. Because of all the American propaganda got to them way before you did.
Yes, yes, man. You're right. You're right. That's what it was. It was like that. It was, and your heart goes out to them, man, because you can feel like their eyes literally. All these black men. The conditions were people. They would love to be incarcerated in our system in here.
But it still don't say like our system is better. It still could, a lot of changes could happen.
Absolutely.
And that's the crazy part, because you go to a country run by black people for black people, and this is how they treat black people when they commit a crime. So now you look at America and you see the way that they treat our prisoners, and every time you try to talk about, hey, what you're doing is wrong. Well, look how they doing over there.
Correct.
You know.
No, it's real talk, bro. I love your perspective. But Louise Carcione, we went to Africa together, and we interesting enough, I actually have 5 spiritual sons who were actually orphans who never knew their mother or their father because of the genocide.
Oh, the Rwanda genocide.
Yes, that situation, man. I'm going to be talking about that because was one of the saddest things I ever heard.
Yeah, it is. And they never taught us a day in school anything about it.
How about that?
That's the sad part. When I learned about it, I think I cried like when I seen the documentary.
Yes, how could you not?
It was just so disturbing because in a way, everybody that was on the side of those roads looked like your family.
That's right.
And you're watching it and you're like, that could have been me.
Yes. Talk about black on black crime. You have a short nose, you have a long nose, like 2 tribes.
Yeah.
Genocide. And what really grieved me about that is the government and the church was in coordination of that.
It shows the power too that those 2 entities have. The power to mobilize people to commit great harm against each other.
Yeah. Or good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's again the power of the government, right, with religious places that was supposed to give hope, right, to a people that literally brought people. One of the museums it is a church. It was a church, that they had people come and they're like, oh, this is a safe place. They're feeding them and so forth. And then they lock the doors, and literally this place has like holes that are bullets. The skulls of the bodies are still there. The clothes, I mean, it was the most, I mean, it was so surreal. I had the shoes, it was like this clay on the ground, and it was like raining, and we just wept, right? Those shoes, I still have. I will never wear them again, but it's like a momentum. That's like sacred ground. It was just devastating, man. And it affected me forever. But to meet the people who were so resilient, right? These young men who never knew, they're like, that could have been my mother, that could have been my father, my brother, my sister. But to see their resilience, to see the fact that they can still smile, right? And the fact that they were able to recover. They have reconciliation villages, so that people who were the perpetrators actually said. They in some instances, they told the truth. And when they wouldn't tell the truth, then they have to go back and serve the people whom they killed their family. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Reconciliation villages. I mean, that was the most amazing thing for me to be able to see that you actually, if you owned it, and they would let you come out of prison if you told the truth. Right, and they had the reconciliation villages and restorative justice, right, practices, right, and they were actually able to start to. And again, it's still a horrible story, but the fact that they were able to have some ability to be able to to serve the people that you actually harmed. You can't bring those people back, but at least you can own what you did, and the community says this is what you do to be able to serve. The people whom you harmed, and to make repair in the harm that you never can totally repair, but at least the people whom actually who were the ones harmed, they're the ones who dictate to you how they believe you can make any semblance of repair.
And it's beautiful to hear that, because you got to understand, if I commit a crime against you, even a crime so heinous, to the extent those guys are committed out there.
Yeah.
Me spending the rest of my life in prison will not help any of us. Now 2 lives has been lost.
Exactly.
So it's beautiful to hear that our people is able to say, okay, you did this. You understand what you did. Mm-hmm. What can we do moving forward so now 2 lives is not lost?
Indeed. I think that's the model, right? That's real, because as you said, our system, so the judges, the lawyers, the correctional officers, I mean, everybody, as you said, okay, you killed now this retaliation, this vicious perpetual cycle of just violence and retribution. Who wins?
Nobody.
What reconciliation happens? The systems, right? People are making money, it becomes, but there's no healing. There's no record. And so there's models of that are actually being replicated right here. So the African American Coalition Committee, that's the entity that wrote this legislation to restore the rights for people that wrote here in Massachusetts that was taken from them. These are black and brown brothers who are incarcerated for life, right? And these brothers are brilliant. They wrote this legislation, but inside they do the restorative justice practices, right? Where these are indigenous practices that were African, tribe, community, right? If you think about it, you know the community. You talked about Haiti, right? You talk about you know who each other are. So you are able to sit in community, and as community, you come together, the elders and the so forth, and you actually facilitate your own policing. You facilitate your own reconciliation. You facilitate, so as opposed to the system that is building prisons. And you said this offline about here. Share what you shared about how the prison, they know who's going to fill the prisons here in the United States at an early age.
So I was reading about something where they essentially was saying by 3rd grade, they could tell who's going to be in a prison cell.
Yep.
Because they were talking about the cycle from education to prison, and how a lot of young men, if by 3rd grade they're not able to keep up with the school, they just start going down this this widened path that just leads them straight to prison, because they will never get the right amount of math. The teachers will never be able to give them that one-on-one that they need. So they'll just keep acting up in school because that's their way of lashing out. And when you lash out at 13 years old, you lash out and you end up in a juvie. You lash out at 17 years old, they wait till you're 18, you end up in a jail cell. And you lash out some more, prison. So yeah, since you know, it's sad. They're looking at 9-year-old boys and they already said, yeah, go make a bed for him. He's going to need it down the line. It's
very sad. And we were talking a little bit, we're talking about, reentry, a lot of focus on reentry. So we're saying here, we're educating people. One, if you are incarcerated, right, and that you come out, one, your rights are fully restored in terms of you being able to exercise your right to vote. So understand, the only way that you're not allowed to vote in the state of Massachusetts, if you are presently serving time for a felony conviction. If you're serving time for a misdemeanor, you can vote. If you're serving time, if you're waiting pre-trial, some brothers been there 5-10 years waiting pre-trial, you can vote, right? Mm-hmm. If you're a person who has served a felony conviction and you're now out, you can vote. Probation, parole, you can vote. So we all need to understand that and educate. But I love what you said about, even as there's a lot of focus on reentry, and that's an important thing to address. But tell me what you tell our audience what you told me with regard to your perspective about this notion of reentry.
My idea is, we're so focused on reentry, we don't talk about the causes that causes people to go to prison to begin with. Mm-hmm. How a lot of Black people or Hispanic people, you're inside of a prison cell. Now they talking about ways when you come out, the things you can go do. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking, since 3rd grade, you already knew this person was going down this path they didn't need to go down. Mm-hmm. You had that early on to catch on to them, to put them on to education systems that would probably help them, like create more trade schools, elevate people in our community that is actually doing good things that could be used as examples for these kids to know, hey, you could do this instead, you could do that instead. It's not just college. Just open way more doors for people, not let people think there's only 2 doors. It's college or it's failure. There's a lot more doors that can open in between that. And once we open those doors, we would often find, like, I'm pretty sure that you will find that a lot of people will not be in nobody's jail cell.
Absolutely. So you're talking about prevention.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. And I love that's what you're saying. I told you I had the opportunity to be a part of a group with Stacy Borden, who has the only women's reentry program in, I believe, New England, that's run by a person who's formerly incarcerated. And it's trauma informed, because we get trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma, right? And so, but with that said, again, and I told you that there were a lot of experts in this, and we're talking about all focusing on reentry. And it was Andrea James, who is a lawyer, and she does a lot of work. And she said, this is great, because it was actually Josh Kraft who was there, and he was saying how he wants to make Boston the reentry model of the country. And I do applaud that, because I can't take that right now. I do applaud that because that's a policy commitment, and it was directly funding not organizations that are not run by people who are directly impacted, who have the lived experience. And a lot of times resources go to people who don't really, you do know what it takes for reentry if you've reentered, right? Mm-hmm. With that said, Andrew James said, that's nice, that's good, but you got to go beyond just reentry. And she said exactly what you said. There are bigger issues we need you to be focusing on about racism and classism, and that's about prevention on the front end as well. That's a piece of it, but just don't stop there.
Yeah. Instead of becoming the model of reentry, be the model of prevention.
I love it. I love it, man. What you're saying is right on. I have a brother-in-law who actually is the director of restorative justice, right? And he was formerly a convicted felon. He's actually married, as I said, to my baby sister, who's the first black city councilor in the history of the city of Haverhill. Yes, yes. And so they're a really power couple, but the brother actually, that's where, so a person who was a directly convicted felon is now running restorative justice and the executive office of public safety.
That's good because he knows what the system needs, you know?
Yes. And one of the things that he talked about is this thing they call emerging adults, which is what he taught me. And these are people who minds aren't even fully formed. They can tell you that your brain is not even fully formed, I think, to 21, right? And there's been issues and so forth of things on the front end that have maybe even made it even more delayed for that, right?
Yeah.
But so you might do something that you don't have the capacity to be able, you just reacted like a trauma, and you did something that unfortunately took someone's life. Mm-hmm. And now you are incarcerated for the rest of your life. So now they're actually doing these. He was able to help this credible messengers, people who are directly impacted, who can go into the community to do prevention, right? Because they have street cred, right? Because they've been there. And so the guys who are embracing the glorification of that because of what the media is saying, they're able to help them to understand. And they've been there, done that. Like, that's not what you want to do. And not just tell you that's not what you want to do, but also be able to be those mentors, to be those, credible messengers that can help them be able to go a different direction.
Yeah. That's definitely right. A lot of young people commit crimes at a young age, and they don't think about the actions later on or what that crime might do to them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, like, you see these OGs, people who's been there, done that. They come in and they try to talk to younger generation people. They try to talk to us as in like, hey man, we did it, we did this and that. Man, 95% of the times they're not even trying to hear all that because they know your time was different. Your time, you can't even use a phone, you can't even use a phone, and you telling me about crimes, man. Like, I honestly think like a lot of older generation people can't put things into perspective. Is that how they say it? To know how bad it is nowadays.
Yeah.
It is 100 times worse. Because to us, you commit a murder, that's something you celebrate. That's something you walk around with your shoulder head high, like, yeah, I did that. Wow. But now you're alone in a prison cell. Did you really do that though? Man, like, you probably took some drugs to do it, man. You probably did it because there was people behind you. Now you're alone in this situation. Everybody's moving on with their life, and that's it. Your life is over. Your life is done for. And you have OGs that's gonna come and tell you, yeah, man, I did it, man. Like, that's not the life you need to live or any of that.
Don't do that. You don't think that's...
Yeah, it's too late. It's too late. My life is already gone too.
So what do you think would be a more effective way? Again, what do you think the solution is? You gave some answers already on the front end, I guess you're saying, right?
Yeah.
There's more resources. But what are some ways that you think that we can do better ways of prevention from your perspective?
Just try to really help these people, these young kids understand, like, there's nothing cool about it. Mm-hmm. Nothing cool about what they're doing. Mm-hmm. It's not right. They shouldn't be out here thinking like committing these crimes is okay. You're only hurting yourself and you're only hurting their community. All you're doing is, messing it up for everyone else, and there's nothing to gain from it. I think that really could be done. I think like we really could go about it in a way where people could use their mind and use their brains to really know, like, oh yeah, what I did was wrong. Mm-hmm. Let's not even do it to begin with. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you were, we're approaching an election year, right? For the mayor, we're approaching for city councilors, So as you see, we were talking a little bit offline, and we don't have time to go into full length about that, but we're talking about like White Stadium and different things that are happening here in the city of Boston. And this particular mayor election, and right now, as I understand it, we have running for mayor, obviously Mayor Wu, Josh Kraft, George Mendoza Ichirula. I can't even say it. He's a restaurant. He owns a restaurant. Right? I don't even know. I'm gonna have to do some research, even who that is. I know my brother Domingo DeRosa. He's also running, and another gentleman, Bill Wright. So these are people, and this is what happens, right? There's more folks who are gonna throw their hat in the ring, right? And so, so what would you say is we're going to have all the candidates come here. We're going to have all the candidates go behind the wall, right? So they can engage people directly. But you, as a young man, 20 years young, what would be some of the things that you would propose, or even, to any of the candidates? Let's start with the mayor, right? Because that's the number one person. So what would be some of the things that you would want to be able to say to the mayor that we need to be able to do to really be able to help? We talked about, what's the school that we talked about that they were trying to move?
Madison.
We talked about White Stadium. So we talked about Madison Cass, like the violence. Like, so what's some of the things that you would say that we need to be able to do to be able to really, make Boston, as you said, what do you call it? The
prevention
model of of the nation.
Yeah. I really, every time you talk about something like you want to see happen in your city, the first thing a politician says is cost. They're like, oh well, we don't really have that many resources to do that. I think that's a lie.
It is.
I think that's a lie.
It is.
Because Boston has all these millions and billions of dollars flowing through it every day.
Come on.
And we're making all this money. It's just about where that money is going, So we need to, first of all, I think anybody who's willing to talk about anything for the black community have to look at ways they could add more trade schools.
Mm-hmm.
The doors we talked about, ways to just add more trade schools, like at RCC, to have more programs for young black men to go into. Just, like go into these juvie halls and stuff like that, and ask these kids how they found themselves in there, to add more counselors to the schools so they could talk about these traumas that these kids are dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
There could be a lot of ways to approach problems before it becomes a bigger problem.
Mm-hmm.
Invest into the black businesses,
mm-hmm.
like give them the proper loans that they need, and don't give predatory loans, just loans that are just gonna be there so people could be in debt for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm. Man,
there's a lot of things these candidates needs to do. It's not just a politician lies, though, because a lot of politicians, that's what they do. They come on radio stations, they make a bunch of promises, and then once they're in office, they don't do anything.
Which is why we have to hold them accountable, right? If they don't do it, then we elect somebody else, right? We elect them in, we let them out. That's why we have to be civically engaged.
Yeah.
Right? It's so important, because that's one thing that we do have. We talked about this peaceful transfer of power, right? That's one thing that we're supposed to, that this democracy that we have, or we're trying to establish, that is pretty fragile, right? And as we talked about full circle, with some of the, as you said earlier, with the liberation even that was fought for your own country, you said it's something that it has to continue to fight for. So the fight continues. It's not like you put someone in office and, human dynamics, unfortunately, we have to hold ourselves and each other accountable. Yeah. If we don't hold ourselves and each other accountable, by default, we're not, we backslide. We become complacent. We have to be ever vigilant to be able to ever move forward, right?
Yeah. I'm so happy that, we're even doing the voting for incarcerated individuals.
Yes.
That's good, because the more people that has the opportunity to vote, the more that you'll see these candidates actually do things to accommodate many different groups of people. They're not just gonna do something for one group of people because only one group of people is voting. They have to do it for a wider group of people, because everybody else is voting too. Everybody's gonna go to the ballot box and remember that opportunity you had to do something for their community when you said no, and now they're gonna vote against you. So politicians, they're gonna be held responsible because they have more people coming to the ballot box.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And it's interesting you say that, because that's the very reason why the right was stripped from them in the first place.
Yeah.
In Massachusetts, you could vote up until 2000 regardless, right? And really, the Constitution says all men or mankind are given these unalienable rights. Means that you should not be, everybody should be able to participate in their democracy, right? So we call it universal voting rights, right? Or universal suffrage, meaning across the United States, you should be able to vote if you're a citizen of this country. Because guess what? You're going to pay taxes. What happened to no taxation without representation?
Yeah, what happened to that? And people, if you're a citizen of the United States, whether or not you're in federal prison, you're in state prison, you should still have the right to vote.
You should.
Because essentially what they're saying is, if you commit a crime, then you don't have the right to vote. It doesn't make any sense, because then you're like, so where in between committing the crime did I lose my common sense to just vote? You know, we could have criminals run for office, but we can't have criminals vote.
Thank you.
So if a criminal could run this country, why can't a criminal vote for somebody to run this country?
That's a very good question. It makes no sense. But God willing, hopefully the mindset will change, because again, they stripped the right for people to vote who were serving felony convictions, because guys at MCI Norfolk were actually utilizing that, and candidates were coming through because they wanted their votes. And as a result, they were changing programming from the inside and humanizing people, and it was more about rehabilitation as opposed to perpetual punishment.
Yeah.
And so they said that's too much power, right? Because they need a working class. Let's be really clear. The 13th Amendment says slavery was abolished with the exception of those who've been convicted of a crime.
Yeah, when they put you in the prison, then they make you give all that free labor up. Man, it really is modern day slavery.
That's what it is.
It really is. And you'll find that, especially in other states like Alabama or like the southern states, man, the laws they have just to keep you in there, just to make sure you keep coming back in there, just to keep working for 10 cents.
It's man, it's deplorable. Not to mention the trauma, right? The dehumanizing, right? That happened, and the breakup of the family, right? So it is. That's the same thing that happened during slavery, right? They broke up families. You're selling slaves, right?
Yeah.
Free labor.
The federal system does that nowadays. They take one man in Massachusetts and send him to California. So when you look at like the black family dynamics,
yeah,
like if you can't talk to your family members, you can't see them, you can't touch them, none of that. How do you know you're still a part of that family?
You don't.
You don't.
And you feel disconnected.
Yeah.
Right. And again, wow, unfortunate brother. Oh my goodness, Mr. Michelle. See, people were engaging. Mr. Michelle is saying, right? God bless you, my sister Michelle. I'm sorry, we were so engaged in this conversation. She says, interested. I see it's worse now, and you say celebrate it, but I hope their life experience can still really help others. Our sister Michelle, she's a member here. God bless you, Michelle. I should have known you were tuned in. I'm so sorry that I missed that comment in the context in which it was said. But we have 3 minutes left, Marvin, and so I'm going to give it to you. You get the last word. What would you want to say to our listening and our viewing audience? Marvin will be working with us. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Jenny. He's a great guy, and we look forward. Our broadcast new schedule will be Wednesday, 4 to 6, and Friday, 4 to 6. This is our first one, so I'm so grateful you're with us. But any parting words that you want to be able to convey to our listening and our viewing audience?
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for giving me a platform. You know, I'm nobody. I'm just a man in our community who's walking up and down and everything. So yeah, I'm thankful. I grew up on this street, actually.
On the street?
Yeah, and I've been looking at the church since I was in middle school.
Are you serious?
And I never once walked into it. And today's the first day I walked into this church. Yeah.
And so when where, how far? You said you grew up
The blue house across from you guys, I lived there.
literally across the front from the front,
Yes.
not just to the parking lot.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I live right there, and I've been looking at at this church for years,
Wow.
and I never walked inside.
Wow.
I didn't know what you guys were about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you're welcome. And I was sharing with the brother that on our fourth Sunday of the month, we have fellowship dinner. So you're welcome to come every Sunday. Our worship experience begins at 8:30 to 9:30, actually here in the studio. We do a broadcast that's Bible Institute. So we come in and we have this kind of a conversation. People are engaging, but we talk about the Bible and how it is relevant to our lives real time, right?
Okay.
And so we'd love for you to join us. You're welcome 8:30 to 9:30. We'd love to have you join us. Then 9:30 we go upstairs and we pray. And then we have praise and worship. I actually had the privilege and responsibility of bringing forth the word as one of the associate pastors on this past Sunday. So we just love God. We believe in the Bible. We're trying to create a biblical community where believers can heal, mature, and walk in wholeness. We love the community. Our pastor has a heart